Well, Borno State, already grappling with years of insurgency, now faces a devastating new crisis: floods that have inundated vast areas. The recent collapse of a dam has submerged entire villages, displacing millions and leaving rescue teams struggling to access isolated regions. Reports indicate over 30 fatalities and nearly 1 million people forced from their homes, many seeking refuge in temporary shelters. Critical shortages of food, clean water and medical supplies persist, prompting calls for increased support from aid organizations like UNICEF. Well, the state government is actively coordinating with federal agencies to deliver aid and has initiated various emergency response efforts. However, the magnitude of this disaster poses significant challenges that are proving overwhelming for local authorities. Well, let's cross live now to Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, and speak to the executive governor of the state, Babagana Zulum. Good evening, Governor Zulum. Thank you so much for joining us on Prime Time. The flood in Borno State has brought immense devastation, compounding the already challenging recovery from the Boko Haram insurgency in your state. But let's begin with pressing concerns, Governor Zulum. With the flood waters now receding, can you paint a picture for us? Are you able to see clearly now the extent of the crisis on ground?
Thank you very much. Yes, the water bodies have started receding, but up to now, greater percentage of the area were flooded to be receded. However, so far so good. In terms of landmass, I believe close to about 30% or 40% of the total landmass of metropolitan Nigeria local government areas of Borno State was submerged in water. The means of livelihood of the people were completely destroyed in these areas because Monday Market, Gamburu Market are two major markets within Maiduguri Metropolitan Council. And these two markets were submerged. So those people that are selling grains, those people that are selling cement, sugar, among others, have completely lost their means of livelihood. But most importantly, we are speaking about lives of human beings. People are saying 30 people. The numbers are quite high. As of now, we have over 100 deaths. But up to now, we are yet to ascertain the total number of deaths. But most importantly, in addition to the properties that were damaged, farmlands were also damaged because the flood does not affect only metropolitan Nigeria. Large landmass were also affected. Thousands of hectares of land were also affected. In addition to this, in terms of building, millions of homes were destroyed. You can see most of the buildings were made up of blocks. But somehow, because of the intensity of water, immediately after the water bodies receded, after 2-3 days, some of the buildings have started collapse, especially sewage systems were completely collapsed. So the extent of damage is very humongous. And as of now, we couldn't say the actual figure, but our staff on ground have started making assessment of the extent of damage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Zulum, and our hearts and prayers do go to the people of Borno State and the Governor of Borno State. But can you tell us what are the immediate steps that your administration has taken to provide some sort of relief, if you can, to those who have been affected by this flooding?
Thank you very much. So far, so good. We established about 36 camps, IDP camps in the state capital in order to provide immediate shelter to the displaced communities. Most importantly, we decided to give each of the individuals affected, that means both male and female heads of household, have received so far 25 plus 10,000 naira, in addition to some certain condiments. This is so far what we have been doing. And then in terms of health facilities, water facilities, Ministry for Water Resources and donor partners are working in the camp in ensuring that, these facilities are provided. But somehow, Our final decision is that in order to separate the wheat from the chaff, what we have given them is meant to keep them for the next maximum 2 weeks. But as soon as water body recedes, those that can go back to their homes can go back, while government has started making assessment of the communities that are affected in order to provide relief materials and other support directly to them in their localities. Because at the end of the exercise, we observed that quite a number of people that are not affected have started trooping into the camps, and it has become very difficult for government to separate the chaff from the grains.
And we do understand that this flooding has caused more than economic and infrastructure damage. This was happening just as schools were about to resume, Governor Zulum. What has happened to education in Borno State at this time?
Yes, because we have extended the resumption of the school by about 3 weeks. But most importantly, I've directed the Commissioner for Education to ensure that all those areas that were vacated are being taken over for fumigation so that students can resume latest in the next 2 weeks. Out of these 36 camps, about 15 of them are schools, I believe so. So what we did was that since some have started going back to their homes, we decided to collapse the numbers. We decided to collapse the numbers of camps. That is what we call camp merger. So the schools should be deserted, while funding has been released so that academic activities in the schools will resume. We cannot afford to miss education because one of the root causes of the insurgency is illiteracy, and we shall do everything possible to ensure that academic activities are resumed within metropolitan and Jere local government areas in the next 2 weeks.
And can you tell us about the concerns that have been raised across board about health risk within the hospital and in the broader community? There have been concerns including waterborne diseases from this flooding. Are there any steps you have taken so far to prevent such an outbreak, or do we have one on our hands already?
Yes, you are right, because most of the sewage systems that we have in the town were completely overflooded. So that means a lot of things, coliform counts and other nitrogen and others have been released to the water. So on Tuesday, exactly on Wednesday, the Minister for Health, Professor Mohamed Ali Fateh, came down with World Health Organization in order to provide the needed support to the people in terms of health. And then UNICEF is also on ground. These bodies have started working with the Borno State government in conjunction with the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. And right now, vaccines and other medicines were supplied to Borno State. And then, hospital facilities are established in the respective camps. In addition to this, NEMA has also deployed mobile clinics and medical personnel. So far, so good. They are doing very well. Where we experience some cases of outbreak of some diseases, the health facilities, health workers have started isolating them. And the response that we are so far getting has yielded positive result in this direction.
Good to hear. One can only imagine the scale of challenges you have to deal with just recovering from over a decade of insurgency in Borno State. But I have to ask you, how do you respond to those who criticize government's response so far? They say it's too little, too late. How do you respond to that?
People do not understand what has really. This year's rainy season, rain, is so huge in such a way that the carrying capacity of the Alau Dam cannot contain the water. So nobody expects. We have never seen such a volume of water. Then in addition to this one, what about the effects of climate change? Emission of carbon into the atmosphere, amongst others, are some of our own challenges. Desertification is also some of our own challenges. So I cannot exactly say that government has not been doing anything, but rather the unfortunate situation is that of high rainfall intensity that has never been witnessed. While in terms of addressing the immediate humanitarian assistance, you can see the event that happened on Monday, and the president has delegated the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to come to Maiduguri. He came in with NEMA officials, with Ministry for Agriculture, NNPC. They brought huge amount of food items, amongst others, to the government and people of Borno State. So they have done very well. And then after some few days, we also received the president himself. He came and he also established what we call, intervention fund, relief fund. So all these things are done in order to uplift the standard of living of the displaced communities, while the Federal Ministry of Water Resources and the Federal Ministry of Environment are on ground. Assessment has begun in order to look into the possibility of establishing medium and longer-term sustainable solutions that will ensure prevention of future occurrences. And I believe the members of the National Assembly are also here. And most importantly, the subnationals are also here. The non-governmental organizations are also here. UN organizations are also here. All those that are concerned in Nigeria, including the National Center for Disease Control, are here. Then the Nigerian military have done very well, extremely well, in rescuing those that are trapped. And most especially the DSS and other paramilitary have also done their best. And I think government has done their best in order to alleviate the suffering. But I believe in the next few months to come, federal government will take a decisive action that will ensure stoppage of the overpillage of the Alau Dam.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I would like us to stay with the Alau Dam, the president's visit and accountability, because we recall that during the president's visit to the Sheriff of Borno's palace, the Sheriff of Borno did mention to the president that he wanted him to investigate the root cause of the flooding in order to forestall a recurrence. And I want to ask you, have you been able to investigate what happened to the Alau Dam? Was the dam a known risk to your government?
Thank you very much. I want you to understand that we had a similar incident in 1994. The Alau Dam was broken in 1994. But the extent of damage that we witnessed this year has exceedingly exceeded what we witnessed in 1994. But however, some of the remote causes of the flooding does not only end in the breakage of Alau Dam, includes the problem of human beings. People decided to erect homes and houses in waterways. Government, on assumption of duty, has decided to now, demolish all those structures that are in waterways. Nigerians sometimes they don't listen. We demolish quite a number of homes, but some people felt that the water will not affect them. The entire width of the canals were reduced. This is also another human factor. In addition to this, I read one article by one Professor Yanganji, I think he's from the Department of Geography, where he said that the Alau Dam is so much in upstream side. He predicted in 1996 that if care is not taken, Maiduguri will be overflooded. But most importantly, the University of Maiduguri was with me this morning. Again, the Nigerian Society of Engineers and the Council of Registered Engineers of Nigeria, COREN, were with me, including the Federal Ministry of Water Resources and that of Environment. We shall soon establish a committee to investigate the remote causes of the flooding with a view to addressing them. But what I want to do is that, yes, the flood has happened. What we need is proactive measures from the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, and most importantly, at the National Assembly, we want a very strong budgetary provision so that these issues can be addressed. We also have some certain organizations like Northeast Development Commission and others saddled with the responsibility of mitigating such problems. I call upon them not to be lazy. I call upon all of them to listen to what the President has said so that together we shall look into a very amicable resolution.
Okay, Governor, but Given the power of hindsight and just looking at what has happened in the last 8 days or so, would you agree with those who say we are never prepared, we're never proactive, we could have prevented this scale of flooding, given that it had happened, even if it was over 3 decades ago? We could have done better to prevent this level of devastation. Do you agree with those who say that?
We are all human beings. I'm not completely exonerating myself as well as the national government. But as I earlier told you, sometimes you don't predict such kind of things because I was born and brought up in Borno State. I've never witnessed within my last 50 years such volume of water in the state. So there are some certain natural phenomena that you need to consider. The issue of climate change is very real. So I think this is an early warning system for all of us in Nigeria that we should work hard in order to, establish hydraulic structures in our dams that will control flow of water, take, measures that will reduce emission of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, preserve our ecosystem, among others. I believe this is what people are saying.
Now let's talk about security, because you had earlier spoken about inmates who escaped as a result of the flooding and devastation. Can you update us on what has happened so far? Are you able to rearrest those inmates? And how are you assessing the security situation given this devastation on ground?
Yes, some inmates have disappeared, but up to now, I don't know whether some of them were carried by the flood, or some of them have run away. But actually, be it as it is may be, I believe most of them have run away. But the Minister for Interior Affairs have come to Maiduguri, and I believe they are working on it. But I cannot give answer now on this very important situation because I believe the prison, the correctional service, and then the Ministry of Interior Affairs will give more insight to this question.
Yes, but in terms of security in your state, how are you assessing that at this time? We know you have dealt with a lot in over a decade, and even before your administration. And you, particularly as a governor, you've tried to resettle people back to their homes, people who have been displaced by insurgencies, by the insurgency war, or the war in northeast Nigeria. You've tried a lot to resettle them to their homes, and then you have this on your hand. So does it complicate the issue for you, and how much of a complication is that for you as a state government?
You are right. As far as I am concerned, the security situation in Borno State has improved by over 90%. Maiduguri is more peaceful now. Maiduguri is even peaceful than Abuja. So we are doing well. I want to commend the former President Buhari, and I also want to commend the current President, Tinubu, because both of them have done very well in addressing the security challenges in the state. Yes, our proactiveness in the state has contributed a lot, but without the support of the Nigerian military and paramilitary, we cannot achieve this feat. But most importantly, I want to commend the resilience of the communities. Our civilian joint task force and others have tremendously contributed into the system. But on the issue of the displacement, so far so good. About 1.5 million people were resettled back to their communities and they are doing very well. In terms of agriculture, land under cultivation have increased by about 500%. You can see the bumper harvest this year. People are farming. I cannot say that the region is completely rid of the insecurity, but so far so good. Over 90% of our security situation has improved, and we are doing very well in terms of security. Our major challenge is sustainability, and I'm also calling on the military to sustain continued military operation.
Do you think that this flooding has set you back in any way in terms of security?
I don't think, only that, there is a link between funding and security. So with this flooding, quantum Sizable quantum of my funding will also go to addressing security challenge. So unless we do some funding, the security board will be reduced. These are some of the challenges that we have. But as at now, I don't think we haven't witnessed any security challenges as a result of this flooding. The only challenge that we had is that of the breakage of the Alau Dam as a result of the flooding. It's not the inmates that have broken the prison, but it's because of the flooding that the prison was broken. And as a result of this, I was told about 281 inmates have run away. But I believe in terms of security challenges, we don't have more challenges. The army is doing well, the military is doing well, and then almost everybody are doing well in the Borno state. And then Borno state government is up to the task because we have strengthened the resilience of the community.
That's very reassuring to hear, Governor Zulum. Let me ask you, you've spoken about the response effort you're getting from far and near, from the federal government, aid agencies, fellow Nigerians. But I want to ask you, are you able to prioritize the needs of the people at this time? We know farmlands were washed away, hospitals were affected, water sources were infected, houses were destroyed. But how are you prioritizing the needs of the people? And what is the priority for you now?
The first thing that we need to do is to provide health facilities and then clean water, because health is very important. Then next is the affected victims, persons. They need to go back, rehabilitate their houses so that they will go back. And most importantly, provide them with means of livelihood. So these are our own priority. But most importantly, what we decided to do now is to ensure that all public properties that were destroyed by the insurgency has to be taken care of by the government, while the community has to receive immediate support. We have provided them with some support that will keep them for the next 2 weeks. But what we have started now is that we have started the assessment right now, and in the next 2-3 days, we shall begin to provide proper support to the affected communities. Yes, many have donated. Now, in the subnationals have donated. The Renewed Hope Initiative under the office of the First Lady have donated. The philanthropists like Dangote, like Aminu Dantata, Northeast Development Commission, and then indigenous of Borno State, among others, have donated to the Basket Fund. In addition to this one, UN organizations are also eager to donate. I want to assure you that government of Borno State, under my distinguished leadership, will ensure judicious and meticulous utilization of the funding that we have so far received. We shall channel the funds appropriately and ensure accountability. We shall prioritize it according to the needs assessment.
That's very reassuring to hear, Governor Zulum, because we do know that ensuring that these donated items getting to those who need them the most is usually a challenge in Nigeria in times of crisis. So telling us that you ensure that it is judiciously used it's good music to the ear. Let me ask you, what is the involvement of community at this time in rebuilding and ensuring prevention? Are you having that conversation with the people, with communities, or is it too early to start having conversations about building better, building to be resilient against such occurrence in the future?
Thank you very much. Let me conclude on the issue of accountability. You know, Zulum is a household name in terms of accountability. I want to assure you that we shall be accountable in service delivery. Then, on the issue of community engagement, it's very important. Right now, we have started assessment with the community leaders, because what we are trying to do is approach. That means members of the communities are completely involved in the decision-making process, conceiving the ideas, planning and implementation of all the programs needed in order to recover from this crisis. The communities are involved. We are trying to ensure that adequate machinery that will enhance peace building, social cohesion, and stability are established. This is so far so good what we are doing. And believe me sincerely, at the end of the exercise, we shall succeed. Then, in terms of working with the community in order to achieve sustainable solutions, who are the communities, the stakeholders? For example, the University of Maiduguri, paid a sympathy visit to me this morning. This afternoon, I've told them we agreed upon that we shall establish studies to investigate the root causes of these problems. The Nigerian Society of Engineers are with me. While within the town, the youths are also very important. The hydrology of the area, amongst others. I believe the communities are very important and we are working with them.
Governor Zulum, you had mentioned earlier that you have provided relief for those affected for the next 2 weeks, if I got you right. What happens after 2 weeks?
We are trying to make assessment and ensure that the assessment will be completed on or before the 2 weeks, and then actual support will be provided to the victims before the expiration of the 2 weeks.
Are there any specific measures you are taking or recovery efforts that is tailored specific? For instance, we know this has also caused economic damages. So for small businesses, for farmers, are you tailoring specific relief for different sectors? Do you have such plans, or you're just handing out foodstuff, clothing, and shelter? What exactly is the plan?
No, because economic recovery is very important. So we are trying to provide means of livelihood to the affected victims. For example, those that have, lost their equipment in terms of, for example, tailors that lost their tailoring machine, we shall provide for them. Those that have lost their welding machine, we shall also provide for them. But most importantly, we are also ready to ensure that, we give them conditional cash transfers. We have an agency called, what do we call? An agency that is saddled with the responsibility of providing support. So this agency, which is under the Ministry of Poverty, will also go around the town and then ensure that all those with small businesses, especially the SMEs, that completely lost their means of livelihood, will be supported with some certain funding. In addition to startup kits that were lost as a result of this flooding. So they are the major beneficiaries of this crisis. Because if you give them food, what will happen? The food will finish in 2 weeks. You give them another food for 1 month, it will eventually finish. But the most importantly is medium and longer term sustainable solutions. And we are ready to provide this solution.
And as we round off, Governor Zulum, can I ask you, what is the biggest challenge you are facing as you juggle resettlement from the Boko Haram insurgency, resettlement from this flooding crisis? What is the biggest challenge for you? And for those who are watching from around the world tonight, if there was an opportunity for you to make a request for them to assist Borno State government and the people, what would it be?
Thank you very much. The biggest challenge that we are facing in this part of the country is the issue of addressing youth unemployment. It's a very serious challenge. Yes, people are going to school. But that does not mean that all the crises will end. We must provide education that will provide employment. Our educational systems has to be looked into. We have to address the issue of mismatch between our educational systems and the institutions and the industries, the mismatch between the labor market and our graduates. So far, so good. I think what we do is to see how we create employment. This is what we are looking. And then the second most important thing that is worrying me is the issue of agriculture. We have vast agricultural land in Borno State, but we also need very huge capital in order to cultivate this land. We need modern agricultural equipment. The Federal Republic of Nigeria has promised to the government and people of Borno State for the resuscitation of the Lake Chad Basin. This is also very important. Then power is very important. We want to invest in modern agriculture. But one of our major problems is that of power. Power is also another huge problem. I believe these are some of the issues that we need to work on it. Then on the issue of security, we must ensure continued military operation. The UN 1997 resolution has clearly indicated that military operation has to be followed by some stabilization mechanisms, which is the reconstruction, rehabilitation, and resettlement. Keeping people at the IDP camps is no more sustainable because there is increasing drug abuse in the IDP camps, there is increasing prostitution in the IDP camps. So we need to build back better. We need to resettle people so that people will go back to their communities and start earning their means of livelihood by themselves. Because continued dependence on government and non-governmental organizations for food and non-food items by citizens is no longer sustainable. That is one that I want to do. Then, on what do I say to Nigerians and others on how they will support the government of Borno State? First and foremost, let me express my sincere appreciation to the federal government, sub-nationals, and all those that have donated to the noble objectives of supporting the victims. But my plea is that people should do more. While we remain eternally grateful to all of them, what I want to say is that, numbers of houses that were destroyed in Borno State, especially in metropolitan Nigeria, are too many. In addition to what we had before, we are about to completely recover from our insurgency. With this flood, we are going back a little bit now. But I believe we need additional support so that we shall go out of this mess. I'm not saying that people should come and contribute, give money. No. Whatever support that you can bring, you can build homes, invest in agriculture, call upon philanthropists to come and establish some industries in Maiduguri that will create jobs, and then partner with the government of Borno State. We have large, fertile land in Borno State. So let them come so that together we shall cultivate the land so that, we can enjoy some facilities in Borno State. But by and large, my plea to the federal government is that while they are doing their best, I'm calling upon the federal government of Nigeria to see how they will invest in sustainable energy in Borno State, which is very important. Then modern agriculture, investment in livestock. Federal government has established livestock ministry, livestock transformation agenda of the federal government. So I'm calling upon the federal government and philanthropists to come to the aid of Borno State by establishing industries so that, especially in the areas of agriculture, agricultural value chain, these are some of the things that we are in need. While on my part, as the governor of Borno State, I want to assure the people of Borno State I shall provide the political will and commitment required to ensure growth and development of Borno State, both in quantum and measurable values.
Very well spoken. Thank you so much. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State. Once again, our hearts and our prayers are with you and the people of Borno State as you wade through this crisis. Thank you so much for being on Prime Time today. We do appreciate your time, sir.